upon a time, banks were run by men in dreary suits and musty old rooms. Not anymore. The new poster boy for the banking industry is a woman, Chanda Kochar. Having joined ICICI in 1984, she grew to take over the reins as CEO in 2009. She then steered the organization out of the global banking crisis.
To Chanda Kochar, Managing Director and CEO of ICICI Bank.
And went on to be named the ET Business Leader of the Year in 2011. A proud mother of two and a strong believer in hard work, the view from her tastefully decorated chambers on the top floor proves beyond a doubt that the proverbial glass ceiling is just a myth. Chanda, it's so wonderful to have you on the show, to get an opportunity to know you a little better, especially because you're such a strong role model for women across the country on International Women's Day. I want to start by asking you about the banking industry. It's traditionally run by black suits. It's male-driven. And things have changed drastically now. But when you joined this industry in 1984, did you have a gender bias that you had to battle? Did you have to work extra hard to prove your place here?
Well, I think the organization that I joined, ICICI, I think that was always, even in those times, was really a gender-neutral organization, and it was really a merit-oriented organization, and it has been so ever since. But clearly, you know, the rest of the world, whether it was the rest of the banking industry or being a banker, you have to deal with clients all the time. So the corporate India was not really that gender neutral. So, you know.
So at 23, when you were appraising projects and you were reviewing projects in petrochemicals and textiles and paper, was it awkward as a 23-year-old to be visiting sites? Like you said, it was not gender neutral. Yes. And there was a bias?
Yes, it wasn't that very easy for people to accept that, you know, a 23-year-old girl will come and walk around the factories. You know, so I think that was a difficult proposition for, I would say, rather than difficult, I would say it was a different proposition. But finally, I believe just the work speaks for itself. So, you know, as long as professionally you are as good, you know, people accept you.
The industry took some time to adjust. There was a period when ICICI had an entire top management of strong women, and there was a lot of sarcasm among the rest of the banking industry in Mumbai. Was that hurtful, or did it upset you at some point? Did it just spur you on to go further?
No, I think while there will always be some, you know, sarcasm or some criticism, but I would say more than that was really the admiration. So I think I actually experienced a whole lot of admiration and good feeling for the organization, and people really looking at then the organization as a role model to learn from about what to do to grow women talent.
I want to take you back to the beginning of your career at ICICI. There was an interview conducted by Mr. Kamath on campus that recruited you for the job of management training. Tell us what that interview was like. What do you remember of it?
Actually, the interview was in the ICICI building itself, because at that time ICICI was not coming to the campus of Jamnalal Bajaj Institute, and they used to only call the topper into the ICICI building for an interview. So the interview was in the building, and you know, Mr. Kamath was actually just setting up the entire leasing initiative for ICICI at that time, and it was actually a big new initiative for the country as well.
Something that you worked on going forward.
Yes. So I remember, you know, a lot of questions were around the concept of leasing and what it could mean for the country and so on and so forth. So it was a nice, exciting, you know, very encouraging kind of an interview and interaction.
In fact, we spoke with Mr. Kamath earlier this morning, and we asked him about that interview, and we asked him what he remembered. This is what he had to say.
You see a potential in the person to apply thought, to take decisions through small questions. I expect her to raise the bar yet again higher and take ICICI Bank to a much greater height than what it has already achieved. That's what makes you extremely contented and happy, if someone in whom you had enormous confidence rises, well beyond that confidence level in terms of doing what is good for the organization. And I have no doubts Chanda will do that.
So it's been quite a journey for you from management trainee to where you are today. But when you took over and filled Mr. Kamath's shoes in 2009, it was a period of crisis for the banking industry across the world. At any point did you feel that it was a daunting task? Were you overwhelmed by the task at hand at that point when you took over?
No, it was definitely a big task, a big responsibility, and I think I was very clearly aware of the enormity and the size of the responsibility. But I would not call it daunting because, I always believe that one has to take the task on hand and handle it. And, whether it's a challenge or whether it's a big responsibility, it's you have to focus on handling the challenge rather than allowing the challenge to get the better of you. So yes, I took on a big responsibility. I actually stepped into very big shoes. But I always said that, I'd be careful that I continue to walk in my own shoes because that's the way you walk firmly and steadily and keep walking faster. And,
In fact, at the time, I remember there was an interview in which you said that you have to be, as a leader, you have to be like a sponge that absorbs all the stress. You can't let it pass on to your team because your team won't be able to function efficiently. So, out of curiosity, once you've absorbed all of that stress, what do you do with it? Where does all the stress go?
Yeah, actually, people ask me what I do to de-stress, but, I basically feel that I never allow the stress to kind of seep in so much into me that I have to do something extra to take it out. So yes, you absorb the stress, you take it, but you handle it quickly and get over it. So, I really don't think that if you get so bogged down by stress that you can then de-stress and take it out. You have to just always make sure that the stress doesn't get the better of you.
Chanda, is a question that every working mother wants to ask you in this country. How did you do it? How did you juggle a home, children, a family, and such a demanding job, and you never took your eye off the ball? Tell us what your magic secret is. How did you do it?
Well, I think the first and foremost, the biggest credit for this really goes to my family because I would say a lot of the credit for this belongs to them because it's they who've been, very understanding, very appreciative, and have never put stress on me, on the family front. But I think, when you tend to manage both career and family, it's not an easy thing to do. But at the same time, it's not an impossible thing to do as well. So it requires a whole lot of focus. It requires a whole lot of hard work. It requires time management, to the T. It requires a lot of prioritization. But clearly, as you plan your day, don't waste time, focus on what needs to get done. And pay attention to both and don't neglect either. I think
Did you have support from your in-laws and your own parents with the children?
Yes, indeed. I had a lot of support, and I think that's one of the very important actually positives that the Indian society offers. The entire ecosystem of parents, in-laws, other relatives who are always ready and willing to support. So I think it's really upon us as to how much support we really use and make things work for us.
Tell us this, in the 20 years from when you went from management trainee to closer to deputy MD and then onwards to CEO, every time a promotion came along, while it was success, it also meant more commitment to the office, more time, more traveling, and more time away from your kids. How did you handle that? Did you at any point feel guilty for not spending so much time with your children while they were growing up?
Well, I think for that it's not as if at any point in time I felt guilty. I think you continue to feel guilty throughout. So if you ask me even today, I would be feeling guilty about it. So yes, indeed, it's a fact that, I would have spent less time with my family, with my children than many other non-working mothers would have done. But, one is that you really focus on quality time. So the time that you get to spend should be spent well. And the second is you always then, as long as you believe that you're doing it out of your own choice and you're not doing it because someone is forcing you to do it, I think you'll end up doing it better. But yes, it is definitely a question of dividing those 24 hours into many more things than what a non-working woman would be doing.
Are either of your children considering careers in banking?
Well, they are yet kind of just coming out of, either coming out of school or coming out of college. May not be banking as such, but I think they're all thinking of their own careers, and definitely they would become career children, whether it's both my daughter or my son.